The latest out of the Middle East is that the planned 72-hour ceasefire between Hamas and Israel is holding. This would be the first of the planned truces to hold in this conflict. Meanwhile, some say that the current conflict may have been stoked in part by joint Israeli and Egyptian efforts to squeeze Hamas. WSJ's Adam Entous joins us now on the phone from Tel Aviv to discuss this. Adam, this goes back a way, but it is the first time that you've had Israel and Egypt working this closely.
That's right. What you basically had was in 2012, Hamas broke ranks with Hezbollah and Iran over the war in Syria and was cut off by both of those allies and became very dependent on Qatar, who would send money via Egypt, where you had President Morsi, who's an Islamist, in charge. That all changed when a military chief by the name of Sisi overthrew Morsi last July. And since then, basically, the top Israeli officials have been quietly working out what amounts to a pincer movement, where Egypt shuts down the tunnels and other transfers of money through Rafah crossing, which is in the south along the border with Gaza, while Israel tightened its own blockade, which has been in existence since Hamas took over the Gaza Strip as well. So the combination of these accumulated pressures basically pushed Hamas against the wall, and Israeli intelligence agencies and U.S. officials and UN officials had said that this could result in an unintentional conflagration.
Yeah, and also the U.S. hadn't expected this close alliance between Egypt and Israel. And in fact, Adam, isn't it true that Israel's intelligence services were somewhat skeptical of Sisi initially? They had to check him out, scour scripts and everything. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so just like the CIA operates, and U.S. intelligence agencies, the Israeli intelligence agencies do what anybody would do when they have a new leader that comes into the picture, which is basically scour what Sisi has said publicly and publicly in speeches and in interviews. But also, of course, Israel has one of the world's most sophisticated eavesdropping systems, and they are able to basically collect intelligence that you and I don't get to see, which is Sisi's private communications as well. And from that, they formed a judgment that this guy was, in the views of Israeli officials, the ideal partner. He wanted to keep peace with Israel. He was interested in maybe even more anti-Hamas, believe it or not, than the Israelis are. And so they formed a quiet partnership, which was basically, these negotiations and discussions was conducted by a small group of Israeli and Egyptian intelligence officials. On the Israeli side, it's a retired general, he's a reservist general named Amos Gilad on the Israeli side, and he would shuttle back and forth secretly to Cairo and have these meetings and discuss ways that they can coordinate this pincer movement.
Now, Adam, what's very interesting here, looking back, you look back at Jimmy Carter, Anwar Sadat, and Menachem Begin. This is a very different situation now. You have Hamas completely, they're isolated. You have the Arab nations largely being behind Israel now, most notably Egypt, of course, which neighbors it. This is a completely different world than a few decades ago.
Right. I mean, in many ways, if you look closely at what happened here, the U.S. had basically prodded Israel and Egypt to work closely together. But in the end, what Washington really didn't expect is that it would be on the outside, looking in on this partnership that's emerged, where Egypt and Israel, when it comes to these issues, trust each other more than they trust the Americans, who they think are looking for ways to end the fighting more than they're looking for ways to crush Hamas. So, U.S.'s priority is different from Israel and Egypt's priority, and that clash has brought has pushed the U.S. away and has brought Egypt and Israel closer together. You can also look at Saudi Arabia, for example. I mean, even though Israel and Saudi Arabia don't have direct communications like the Egyptians and the Israelis do, there is a convergence of interest here that is really totally groundbreaking and is reshaping the Middle East in kind of a quiet way. Obviously, Sisi in Egypt needs to be wary of what the Arab street thinks, just like the Saudis need to be concerned about what the street thinks, which is the reason why these relationships are kept kept secret and not publicized. But it really is reshaping the way Israel sees its position in the Middle East.
Okay, whole new world happening. Thank you very much, Adam Entous of the Wall Street Journal. We appreciate your time.